Hey Donna, okay, so here is your past life spread. By the way, I hope you're doing really great and I hope everything's going well with that class, so let me know. But anyway, here is your past life spread based on the intention that we were setting. And so, as usual, we're going to go to where you were, what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with the relationships, feelings involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout, usually, actually. I'm going to flip that card. Okay, so as you know, I'm going to relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting, and your job is to make connections where you can, and I will try to help. So, we're going to start here, and this is the reason we flipped the time card, because this is the Atlantis and Lemuria card, and it feels very much like we're being drawn to Atlantis. As you know, the Atlantis is more of a masculine energy, the Lemuria is more feminine, or I guess more aggressive versus more passive, more like individualistic versus more community-based, and we're going to Atlantis. You probably already feel or know that you've had time here before. I think a lot of it has to do with healing abilities and also curiosity that you may feel in this life to dive in deep and discover, and the mystery of things and the learning. It feels more like it's about your thirst for knowledge, your love of knowledge, or not just knowledge but learning and then doing, if that makes sense. So, sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera there. Alright, so if you've ever had a polar connection with Atlantis, this would be it, or others. I feel like this is not just one life in Atlantis. I feel like, you know, your soul goes back far, far, far. I guess we all go back far, 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 but it feels like you started developing very early on when it comes to your, like, spiritual development, if that makes sense. Gosh darn this camera. So, anywho, sorry. Okay. See you. Yeah, I set it up new today, so I guess I've learned my lesson. We're going to go here in a second, but I do want to mention we're looking at the life of what feels like a very balanced masculine, feminine energy kind of thing. And it feels like when I was laying this down, though, we were leaning towards the female, so I feel like we're looking at a female life here, but with a certain confidence that comes along with a more masculine form. So I feel like we're looking at a very strong female presence here. And so this card right here is called the con card, okay? So the con card doesn't always mean you're a con artist or that you're a bad guy or whatever. But in this sense, what it really felt like it was coming up as is that it had to do with fraud, but it had to do with you feeling like a fraud. So it feels like what this card is speaking to is any sense of insecurities that you may feel in this life. And I'm going to go further into that with what is coming through for the con card. So when I say fraud, it feels like we're looking at a female, a woman, this person, this aspect of you, back in this time in Atlantis, where it feels like she was on a path of discovery and putting something together that she wanted to share with other people, almost like creating her legacy. And what she was putting together to share with other people, it feels like it had to do with her eventually, or having to, like how we would see someone creating a course or creating a new healing modality, or you know what I mean, someone who is putting something together based on their experience and knowledge and their passion. And it feels like this person here is very innovative, and it feels like there's a lot of creativity but also a lot of drive and focus, and they put together this thing, and it feels like it is having to do with something new that she wants to teach. I can't really get the exact details, but it does feel like it is something that would help with development or growth or healing abilities, or something where it has to do with teaching other people abilities or growing in their own way, or becoming better, improving. Basically, it feels like we're looking at someone who is on their way to becoming like a self-help guru, or like kind of like a Tony Robbins kind of thing. Not exactly like a stand-up motivational speaker, more like low-key, but that kind of impact that's made on people. So it's like you are really trying to put something out there that really impacts people in a powerful, positive way. However, the feeling of fraud comes through because there's a lot of like self-doubt issues where it comes to like, oh, am I qualified to do this? Should I be putting this out there at this time? That kind of thing. Like, have I been, am I at a place in my life or my career where I can reasonably put this out there and expect people to, embrace it? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of like doubt and self-worth issues and insecurities. And so there's something about, okay, so that's going to be, okay, so something else, so we're going to move into this day very soon, but based on this card, let's make some connections, or you make connections where you can, as far as feeling like a fraud when you really shouldn't. Feeling like, you're holding yourself back in ways because you feel like you're not good enough yet. Or maybe you tell yourself things like, oh, maybe, a year from now I'll feel better about this. Or, oh, I'm not qualified for this yet. I need more time on this before I put it out there. Are you someone that has started projects you don't finish? Or someone who you have ideas you want to put out there, or maybe you want to like, what's it called? Yeah, just basically that's it, putting it out there. Something about holding yourself back from putting yourself out there in certain ways that would really, you really know would be very beneficial to you. And even other people maybe, but you just are holding yourself back in certain ways. So this card would be coming through just to let you know that, or with a message that if you feel like you are holding yourself back when it comes to certain things, either now or you have in the past, but now too, like if you feel urged to create something or put yourself out there in different ways or whatever it is, and you find you might be holding yourself back or censoring yourself or whatever it is, this would definitely be a message to tell you to like push through. Like if you're on a precipice of something, just push through, like just make it happen, and stop with the self-doubt. Understand the self-doubt or any self-worth issues or any insecurities with this way, or feeling like a fraud or anything like that is all very human and has nothing to do with your soul path. So make sure that you are walking on your soul path, staying on that path, pushing forward, pushing through, realizing that all those other feelings that may hold you back are just little like ego tests. And your job is to just pummel through them and push those feelings aside and keep going and move forward. Also, there's a feeling of any like fear of backlash, fear of judgment, fear of letting others down. Don't let those hold you back either. I feel like there's just like these little feelings that pop up about that might hold you back. And in regards to the intention we set for this reading, obviously there's a lot coming through that doesn't have to, well, I'd hate to say doesn't have to do with exactly, talking about like what we set the intention for, but stuff will be coming through for you anyway, because I feel like there's a lot going on that you probably need to hear about other than the intention set for this. But that said, how this can be related to the intention that we set regarding that person would be that these feelings that are coming up, self-worth, doubt, holding back, not good enough, feeling like a fraud, whatever it is, make connections with this person too, because it feels like this person very well may have been put in your path, or you guys may have contracted together to meet and be to each other what you were in this life for purposes of helping you at this time move forward. So it's almost like okay, bear with me. So it's like this idea that you meet someone and there's always like there's always a reason for a breakup or a divorce or whatever it is, and that reason I feel like was to help propel you forward. Like if you got the balls to get out of a relationship and move forward in this way, in this human way that we call divorce, if you've got like that much strength to move past it and keep going in life, because that takes a lot of emotional like bravo, like that takes a lot of strength. So understand that that's where your focus should be, is on the strength that you've acquired in moving forward and past the relationship, if that makes sense. And that strength is related, I feel like correlated at least with this, with what it takes to put yourself out there. So it's almost like if this relationship was you felt holding you back in any way. Instead, I feel very much like you should be urged to see it as a slingshot. So this is the relationship that's pulling. It feels like you're being held back, but really, you're actually being pulled back in order to spring forward that much faster and that much stronger with that much more force. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like a big purpose of that relationship was actually to make you into more of a force, or make you feel the powerful force that you are even more strongly, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. We're going to go to the first important day here. So here is the Enlightenment card. And this is related to a soulmate card. And I feel very much like this is what we're looking at here. Like the purpose, the intention, I feel like this is one of them, at least, like the relationships we're looking for. And then the feeling here is love. So I feel like what we're looking at as in this time of this person's life, the aspect we're looking at here, during this time in their life, it feels like this is that moment where they are kind of at the peak of their career, and this is the whole like putting yourself out there, creating, innovating your own methodology or your own structure to whatever it is that you do. There's something very innovative, creative, and subjective about this thing that's happening. You're at a very like your peak of your life, and it feels like there is someone that comes on board at this time. And so it feels like at this time here is like everything is happening. Career and relationship, everything's moving forward, everything's accumulating and coming together. And so it feels really, you feel, there's a feeling of momentum in the air. Like there's a lot of momentum. And so how you can connect with this could be also, don't forget this Enlightenment card, this intention we put down for this reading. Enlightenment, I feel like this connects in a way where, again, you made contracts together. This person and you made a contract together, and because of the time spent together in this life, you have grown in your own self-development and self-enlightenment, and you know what, you've learned a lot about yourself as far as like what you can handle, but also what you want and what you're capable of. So I feel like this relationship really brought out your capabilities in a lot of ways to yourself. And not only that, it feels very much like you're going to continue to see the effects as time goes by. So that the more you look back over time, the more you're going to have a lot of like, oh, well, of course, you know, thank God that happened because of this. Or, oh yeah, oh, I'm this way because that happened. Like basically hindsight, you're going to start seeing, if you haven't already, which I feel like you might have by now, but you're going to start seeing, or continue to see, I should say, a lot of hindsight, positive hindsight that comes from the relationship. As far as, again, your own enlightenment, you're going to see this in a big way if you haven't already. So this person is part of your soul group. And so even though it's hard to, in this lifetime, as a human being, to look back upon a divorce, let's say, to look back and be grateful for that. I mean, I guess in a way, it's easy to be grateful for a divorce, the actual divorce, you know, if you want to be set free, and it's a wonderful feeling, but it's easy to look back at like the period leading up to a divorce, or what accumulated to make the divorce happen, or whatever it is. It's easy to look at that and feel like, oh, it's a failure, or God, that's really hard, I would never do that again, that really sucked, that kind of thing. But again, I feel like this was very connected to a contract that you have made with this soul person, this person part of your soul group, where it's actually very positive. And you're going to, if you can't see it already, it's the kind of thing where, you know, when you're done with this life and you're back up there together, you're going to look at you're going to high five each other, and you're going to be like, wow, you did a really good job. That's what it's going to be like. Because whatever this person did, there's something about it that opened you up in such a way where it feels like the feeling of peeling back layers. So like an onion, when you pull back the layers, you know, to get to the stuff that you can actually eat, kind of thing, the stuff you can savor, the stuff that is nutrition, the stuff that what's it called? Just, you know, gives you the nutrients you need, so to speak. That's what this feels like. It feels like this relationship plus the divorce, even like the divorce really like is like basically peeling back that onion to get to the stuff that you want to put into the recipe, so to speak, put into to what you're eating, if that makes sense. I know that's a weird connection thing, never really had the onion thing come through, but that's what's coming through, so bear with me. But again, it feels like this is coming through to really like show you that it's actually quite beneficial to you, and it would be the best for you to, when you look back, find the benefits that you got from, sorry, the slow talk, I'm trying to like translate correctly, is to to find the benefits that you got from the relationship, but really more about like leading up to the divorce and the divorce time period, what you learned. So I feel like you're going to, if you haven't already, again, you're going to see that the more you do that, or if you're capable of doing that already, or if you haven't, please start doing that kind of thing. It's going to open you up even more, because it's going to eventually lead to this aha moment if you haven't had it already. There's this like where it's, I can't explain it. It's like this feeling of like empowerment when you understand that everything happens for a reason, even though I know you already know that. It's the hard things that you look back and it's really hard to smile at some things, but it's like find the moments to smile at, or find the moments where there's real value in it and that you've learned from. I know I'm repeating myself in different ways, but that happens sometimes when they want to drive a point home. But this person in this life, I feel like almost like you met them through what you taught. So it's almost like they're a student of yours, for lack of better terms. So this person feels like they're a student, and it's like but it's not like they're far behind you. It's like they're growing with you or learning with you, but still it's like they're learning your method, if that makes sense. So they're your student, even though there's this equal footing, peers. It's like you run things by him as they come up. So it's almost like he's learning before the rest of your students are learning, because he's your partner. I don't know if there is a marriage. Quite frankly, it feels more just like it's a sexual romantic relationship in this life here. So even like connection to those things. For example, the feeling of teacher-student, the feeling like maybe you felt like you were teaching him stuff, or that you felt like you were with a child at some times, or not in a bad way, just like you feel like you had to kind of like point things out or spell things out or remind him of things all the time, or that kind of thing. Also, any connections having to do with sharing yourself with him in intimate ways, but it doesn't have to be like sexual. When I say intimate, it can be sexual, but also about like your mind, your thought process, your worries and doubts, things like that. Like not worries and doubts, but worries and doubts, but also what's it called? Fears of feeling like a fraud. So it's this card coming through again where you're sharing with him the feeling like a fraud. So what's coming through too is something about your desire to have a partner where you can tell that person that you do feel like a fraud, or feel wrong, or like someone that you can verbalize or articulate these feelings to. But then there's this other thing coming in right now where it feels like how important it is to understand that by telling that person, or telling this person, or in your current life, anyone, where you're able to open up with that amount of vulnerability too, is a win. But there's something about you really needing to be able to not only accept that about yourself or verbalize it to yourself, but understand that that has to come without judgment of yourself. So there's these things that we admit to ourselves, or we know about ourselves, that we may judge about ourselves because we're taught that it's not right to feel a certain way. However, it's time to get rid of those teachings and really understand that even the darkest parts of yourself that you may not fully even understand are very important to at least admit to yourself without judgment, and to look at them almost like as a curiosity without judgment, instead of feeling like they're this secret, dark, hidden part of yourself that you're ashamed of. I don't know if that makes sense. So if that speaks to you, great. If not, that's fine. But we look at someone here who I feel like can handle that aspect of you, and in a sense it feels like it may be connected with your current life, with the intention we set, in a way where that person was someone that perhaps you felt could not handle that part of you, or would judge you, or would encourage yourself to change or judge yourself, rather than encourage you to release judgment of certain things that you and or him would feel it's necessary to judge based on how you were brought up. Okay, so you might have to listen to that again, because so if you make connections with that in any way, that's what I feel like is coming through when it comes to the intention set about the person we were talking about. And that's very important, to have someone who can accept those parts of you, and if not, then they're not supposed to be in your life, and they shouldn't be in your life. The word shouldn't is wrong. So they're not supposed to be in your life in the way where having them removed from your life is actually a lesson in itself. Because being able to separate yourself from another person in this way so that you can grow in non-judgment is actually part of a lesson or purpose that you came in with, because separation in that way is so hard in itself. Even if you aren't the one who instigated the separation, I don't know, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, but even if you're not, just the fact that you can, again, power through and grow and live and continue on past this kind of certain separation from someone is a very beneficial, very positive growth and lesson for you, to show you how capable you are. But also, again, it's good if you're not with someone who encourages lack of judgment of yourself, that you're at least with yourself in a way where you can grow in the way where you start to really release and let go of any and all judgment when it comes to these parts of yourself that, again, you are trained, or we are all trained or grown, or, brainwashed into, I guess, these days with society, but we're trained to judge of ourselves, So basically, there's this big message in this whole reading where it comes to where it's time for you to kind of really cleanse out all of the judgment of yourself. It's make sure you get rid of it so that you can create space to bring in more high vibe, positive energies, self-talk, and almost like skill sets, if that makes sense. It's almost like you want to cleanse out all this gunk so that you're making room for all this new, wonderful, amazing stuff coming in. So you gotta make room for that. If you haven't started already, time to start, kind of thing. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections where you can with that. We're gonna go to the next important day. So here, wow, this camera has really just skewed. Sorry about that. Ugh. Oh, is it going? Yeah. Oh well. Next day, trauma. So we're looking at trauma. We're looking at a child card, and we're looking at this, which is kind of like a depressed, lonely kind of feeling here. And I feel like we're actually looking here where it's not a child. It feels like it's this person we were looking at here. And it looks like we're ironically, we're looking at a separation. So it feels like we're looking throughout, we're going forward in time, where you're still working, you're still at the peak of everything, romance, passion, all this good stuff happening up here. Time goes by, and we are looking at a separation from this person, and it feels like the child card has to do. Hold on. No. Okay, so it feels like there's a dual aspect to the child card. The first aspect that came through had to do with this lover becoming more separated from yourself, almost like you grow and even though he's learning from you, it's almost like there's a ceiling he hits and you just keep going, and he's just hitting the ceiling. And I feel like it has to do with emotional intelligence, where he's just not there yet. There's just there are people out there you meet, and you can just tell there are some concepts they just can't grasp quite yet, you know, if at all in this lifetime. You know, there's just this certain emotional intelligence level that they get to, and there's, you know, it's just stuck. So it feels like he's reached his kind of his like emotional intelligence peak, and you move past, and so there's a separation that occurs. But it also does feel like, once we start talking here, that there's actually a child involved. And again, I do not feel like this is a marriage. I feel like this is it turns into a partnership in a way, but again, there's like this lack of permanence or lack of commitment. So the child here, it feels like we see this person eking out or leaving, and then we see you with the child, and we see you not fully processing, having to continue your life in the way where it's just you and a child without the father figure, without the lover figure that was there, because it feels like it's been years. So it feels like almost like maybe like 2 or 3 years or whatever it is, enough substantial time where you would form a bond with this person. And so we're looking at someone where it's really difficult for you to move past. So I feel like this is interesting now coming through as far as the intention we set, because I feel like this is coming through to show you that you've already been through a separation from a lover where it was difficult to move on, feelings of loneliness, because there's a message in it where in this life it's not supposed to be lonely. It's not supposed to, I hate the word should and supposed to. I hate to say that, but it's like this time around, your lesson is to move on and not look back. Not look back, not dwell in the past, not dwell in that past relationship, not harp on it or go over it. Make sure you're not pulling up memories of the relationship or feelings from the relationship. Hold on. Make sure you're not pulling them up, but it's also about you this time around having that control that you let go of here. There's a sense of letting go of a control that allowed you to dwell in the loneliness of the past, of having the partner, and then also even having built up the idea of what it would be like to have the partner in your life to raise the child. Oh, I'm having a child. Like you had this idea once you learned that you were having a child that he would always be there. You had expectation. Okay, so the message here is that you are in a time here, like you were born into this life now to kind of not correct it, but correct this, like in a sense, like where realizing that you've been through this before, where you have allowed yourself to dwell and also did not really retain any mental control over the thoughts coming into your mind. Whereas in this life, there's this message coming through where it's time to really hone in on the skill of being able to train your thoughts in the way where you don't allow them to run rampant in your mind. You don't allow chaos into your mind in a way where chaos is a big word, but in this way it is chaotic, because when you don't control the thoughts coming into your head, that really does affect the rest of your life. And so I feel like this message is coming through to make sure that you're not dwelling on any of those past thoughts. And if you do dwell on the past, make sure it's the thoughts that bring a smile to your face, or the ones that you've learned from, or whatever it is, but that you're not kind of staying in the past. You're not bringing up those bad moments in the past, instead recognizing they all led to this chapter of your life that should be seen as freedom rather than loneliness. So it feels like this person approached this last chapter of their life, well, I guess the rest of the chapter, so to speak, because this is like when the child's very young, but they approach this next chunk of their life with like a sense of loneliness, a sense of foreboding, a sense of dwelling in the past, whereas in your current life, it's a message to approach this next this next chapter with freedom. The language needs to be there. Freedom, independence, just that kind of thing. Like it's such a much more positive aspect. So that message comes through again about actually learning to control those thoughts, learning to control the ins and outs of those thoughts, and that you do have the control over those thoughts, even though sometimes it feels like you won't or you don't. you do. So just remind yourself of that, and remind yourself that you already went through a life where you couldn't really control it. You kind of dwelled in the past. It was lonely. You wanted more. There wasn't a discontentedness. Versus this life, it's again this message coming through that you really make of it what you make of it. You make of it what you make of it. So you have that choice to learn to control your thoughts, move forward with the idea of independence and freedom, or not. So it's kind of like this is kind of one of those big lessons in your life where it's up to you. And if you find that you are smoothly transitioning into a mindset of freedom, independence from this person or a relationship or past chapter, then marvelous, awesome, and you're right on point, okay? So keep going with it if you've already begun that or you already feel that way. If you already feel that way and you already find that you're already doing that kind of thing, then this is simply coming up as reassurance that you're doing the right thing by you, for you, that you should be doing for you. Also, an aspect of focusing more on your happiness, your joy, what brings you pleasure. Really a focus on you at this time in your life, which is really nice. And also something coming through about this person, also one of the lessons to help you with is a lesson in letting go, which it feels so much like you're like so capable of that, it's ridiculous. Like so capable. So any doubts you might have about that, like just get rid of them. Because again, the doubts are just human. Like get to that soul thought where it's like, oh yeah, I got this. Because you totally have it. You totally got it. And the trauma card came up because this trauma would be the lingering soul memory of dwelling in the loneliness of not having another person or feeling like you need someone else and you don't. So it would be a soul memory. That's where the trauma comes through. And again, if you're struggling with that, just go back over what we were talking about here. Child aspect, I feel like there is something. It's hard too because, you know, like I'm trying to keep out, I do my best to keep out bias as far as what I know about you, but I feel like there is something else connected with this child card, and I want you to make connections where you can. The loneliness. Okay, so what I'm going to say about this child card is in this life, it feels like this child did not bring you the comfort, joy, contentedness that you thought he would, and also that others told you he would. So there was like a dual disappointment as far as having the child and raising the child. And I feel like that's connected in your current life in possibly the opposite way, where the child in this life brings contentedness and brings the joy that was lacking in this life as far as raising him. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. There's more about that. So keep making connections where you can. There's something about the loneliness card too, where if you find yourself dipping into bouts of loneliness or depression, to remember that they're just little dips, and when you dip into them, the best way to deal with them or manage them and get out of them is to think of them as dips into your past life. And if you think of dipping into a past life in Atlantis, just the thought of it will seem really cool to you. And because it'll seem really cool to you, it's going to kickstart you back into the present, where you are learning, or not learning, but remembering all of your healing capabilities, all of this cool, innovative, creative healing stuff that you've carried with you into this life. So it's almost like a little formula to bounce you out of depression or bounce you out of anxiety or sadness or loneliness, those little bouts that you may get. And maybe you don't, and that's fine, but if you do, that formula would be coming through to allow yourself to actually be okay with it and remember, oh yeah, the Atlantis life, that's why I feel so down, because in Atlantis this happened to me. And when you think of it, it's going to seem really, again, I'm repeating myself because that's what's coming through, but when you think of your past life in Atlantis where you were lonely, it's kind of neat. And allow yourself to feel how interesting that is. And in doing so, again, it's going to ignite that curiosity of the mysterious and like that curiosity you got inside of you. It's going to ignite it and it'll bounce you out of it and into a project in the present. So that's also, I feel like, another message coming through to make sure that you move forward or start on a project if you feel urged, or you get a download, or you get something where it hits you and you're like, oh, I want to create that. Oh, I want to write that. Oh, I want to share that. You know, that kind of thing. It's good for you to have at least one project that you're always working on that you can like bounce back into when you are feeling down or feeling out of the ordinary or low or whatever it is, if that makes sense. So if not, that's fine. But if it speaks to you, it's connected to this. So let's go to your death card. So we're looking at a natural death, and I feel very much like we're looking at a much older woman. This woman, by the way, is slender, willowy, tall, dark hair, allows the natural graying of the hair to come through. There's something elegant about her, but also there's something, I can't explain it, but that's the look of this woman. It's very interesting, excuse me, it has to do with like, there's something very like drawn out about her, like long, like that kind of thing, which is really interesting because I don't really usually get details like that. So it's coming through for a reason. So connect however you can. But it was a natural death. It feels very much just like falling asleep and dying, or passing in a very lovely way. I have to say, it feels very peaceful and lovely. It feels like it's daytime, kind of like the late afternoon, for a reason. Almost like her soul wanted to experience one more morning. So if you have an affinity for sunrises over sunsets, I feel like that would be from this. There's something about the mornings. If you're a morning person, or if you're not a morning person but you enjoy the mornings more over night, you know, because some people are morning person, some people are night people. Then again, it could be opposite, and you could be a total night owl, who knows. But that's what it feels like. That's what it's coming from here, is making sure that she at least saw like the sunrise or the dawn or the early morning, and did her ritual in the morning, whatever she did. Like, you know, these days it might be coffee, but, you know, back then, I don't know, maybe they had coffee, I don't know. But, yeah, so that's what's coming through here, is this lovely, like, it's kind of like the most ideal death you could want, for lack of better terms. So, connect with that however you can. Now, the lesson here is the compromise card. And I feel like this is speaking to both lives. Like here, we're seeing someone who ended up compromising their potential because they allowed another person, and then their present circumstances resulting from that interaction, to dictate their happiness. And I feel like in your current life, this card is coming up to make sure that you're not compromising your happiness in your present moment to dwell on past people, past circumstances, situations, or memories that as a human always pop up, of course, but making sure you're not compromising your present moment to dwell in the past. In the biggest way I can say. Like, what they're saying is, don't lose yourself. Don't let your mind leave the present moment. Don't let your mind leave the present moment you're in. As far as like if you're with friends, if you're at a special occasion, if you are working on a project, or enjoying yourself alone, whatever it is. Don't allow your mind to leave the what's it called? Like the usefulness and profoundness of being in the present moment. Don't allow your mind to leave it just to dwell in the past, or to let in those thoughts that we talked about earlier about learning to keep out those thoughts, if that makes sense. So when you leave the present moment and you do dwell on the thoughts, or you allow those thoughts to win, if that makes sense, if you do that, you're actually compromising your growth, you're compromising your development, you're compromising your happiness, you're compromising a lot when you let those thoughts win, or when you let your mind, go, when you let go of the, what am I saying? When you let go of the, not the strength, but the, what's it called? When you let go of the discipline, there you go. When you let go of the discipline that you have over your thoughts, to allow other thoughts to come in, or to allow, again, your mind to slide into the past, whatever it is, or how you think about a certain person, whatever it is. If you lose the discipline, you're compromising yourself. And it's not like this big thing where you should, be mean to yourself or frustrated with yourself if this happens, because you're only human. Like, so be nice to yourself, but just realize that you're compromising a lot when you let go of that discipline of being in the present moment. So I feel like really what's coming up is like this urge for you to learn, if you don't already, to meditate. Try doing it every day, because through meditation, that is where we learn the discipline of allowing or disallowing certain thoughts to come into our mind. I mean, that's, I believe that's what transcendental meditation really is about when a thought comes in, letting it fade away. The whole point is to get to a place like a void where there's no thoughts, but you can do that. And so if you do the meditation like that, if you do those meditations and you learn to kind of control those thoughts, then you can bring that into your waking daily life where you're going about town or wherever it is, and you can retain that beautiful, peaceful, serene, present moment void, so to speak, in your mind, versus letting any old thought come through that might disrupt you or make you angry or trigger you or whatever it is. Because then, again, you're compromising yourself, if that makes sense. So, anyway, that is the lesson. Compromise. Keep making connections where you can. There is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and maybe that, I don't know, helped in some way. And anyway, thanks for letting me read you. I hope you have a great day. Bye.